Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, David Mion. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about the Helldivers 2 situation, among other things. That was going to be our only topic, but then literally today, massive news broke on the Xbox side that we'll get to as well. But starting with Helldivers, a crazy situation developed over the weekend where Sony announced that PC players, Steam players of Helldivers 2 had until, it was only like a few days, right? They had a few days to link or create a PlayStation Network account to continue playing Helldivers 2. And this created a massive outcry, a huge situation over the past weekend. And I guess I'll just hand it over to you guys. What are your first thoughts on it?
I mean, this was a huge problem. Sony really kind of bared their ass here. They showed that they do not understand this market. And not just on a cultural level they don't understand this market, but they literally sold their video game in territories that were no longer going to be able to play it at all because they don't offer PlayStation Network in those places.
Yeah, and that news right there is what finally really got perked my attention, because at first I was just like, just make a PSN account, what's the big deal? And then I saw that this game was being sold in so many, dozens of different countries that did not have PSN at all. And then I was like, well, hold on a minute. This doesn't make any sense at all. And
no, that's unacceptable.
It feels like if even the smallest due diligence was happening, this wouldn't have happened on Sony's end. But it's crazy that an organization that big can fail to see something like this, where they're literally shooting themselves in the foot.
I think they have had so much control in the past, and it's been a non-issue when they sell a single-player game on Steam. You know, this isn't something they've run into before, but they've had so much control. They're used to a very vertically integrated setup. They don't have to worry about a PlayStation Network account in a country they don't sell PlayStation 5s in, and that's very easy to have control over. Whereas a PC, but people have them everywhere. And Steam is available pretty much everywhere. Hardware is a little more difficult. Even the Steam Deck isn't sold in a lot of territories. So hardware is a little more difficult, but...
That's an excellent point, where Sony is for the first time foraying outside of their walled garden and learning how to deal with situations that arise from doing that. And just to sort of give a full overview of the situation... Come Sunday evening, late Sunday evening, Sony did put out a tweet saying that they were reversing course on their decision. You do not have to create a PlayStation Network account to link to Helldivers to continue playing it. You can continue playing it with just a Steam account. But by that point, there had been significant damage done to both Sony, the brand, and Helldivers, the game. And it's just very unfortunate, because none of this needed to happen if there was just a little common sense and communication. But in Sony's own admission, when they apologized and reversed course, they said that they were still learning about the PC market. So that's an admission for them that of their own sort of naivete on the subject.
I think it's worth noting that as of right now, you will still need a PlayStation Network account to play Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer when that comes to PC in a few months.
Right, and I think I forget if you said this off the air or on the air, Connor, but I think the biggest issue here is not the mandation of a PSN account, but it's the fact that they announced this months after the fact, after people had already bought their games, already played it for dozens, hundreds of hours, right, what have you. But with Ghost of Tsushima, I think the situation is different, right? The multiplayer mode launching with that expectation in place. Ghost of Tsushima, when it launches on PC, will have that PlayStation overlay as well. So it's already pretty integrated with PlayStation, even from just a single-player perspective. So I think, largely, customers will know what they're getting into if they purchase Ghost of Tsushima on PC. But with the case of Helldivers, it was very much a case of, pulling the rug out from under everyone.
Right, and with Ghost of Tsushima, you also will be able to play the single-player without an account, so... with
right.
Helldivers, the whole game was gone for these people. There was nothing.
Yeah. Right, so. And I guess I just want to sort of focus in on the the more negative impact to Helldivers as a whole, because for a while now, this game has been the game, right? Like, this is the most popular game in the world, seemingly. There are over 100K active users on Steam at any given moment, and we saw those numbers tanking over the weekend. We saw like way overwhelmingly negative reviews being blasted on Steam for this game, which, you know, like previously it was overwhelmingly positive, but the past, you know, like Saturday, Sunday, huge swath of negative reviews, bringing the score down, deterring future potential buyers of this game.
Another reason this was so bad for Sony was that this game is more popular on PC than it is... Well, I don't know. That phrasing was weird. There are more players on PC than there are on PlayStation. This weekend, I saw someone had posted that there were 107, something like that, a little over 100,000 total Helldivers active, and 80,000 of them were playing on PC.
Yeah, that's an insane split, right? Like, this is uncharted territory for Sony. Like, they have not had a game break out on PC like this ever. And this is sort of showing them, like, what they need to do in the future. And I'm very glad that they did reverse course. And we had a discussion about this too, where I was firmly of the belief that they would reverse course after the insane amount of negative sentiment that was generated on Saturday and Sunday. But for a while there, it really did seem like Sony was, you know, kind of head in the sand, not listening to anyone. And granted, maybe that was because it was the weekend. There wasn't anyone really working on this problem. So,
I was less certain that they were going to reverse course until Valve decided to give unconditional refunds for the game to, I think, anyone. I don't think you had to live in one of the countries where you couldn't make an account. I think it was literally anyone could just refund the game regardless of how many hours they played. And when something like that happens, a refund is worse than someone never buying the game, because you're still paying things like credit card fees and stuff like that. I don't know the actual full breakdown, but I know someone refunding a game actually costs you money. So that is hitting a company where it hurts.
Plus,
really bad.
Yeah,
So,
like the refund situation, plus Steam was starting to delist these Helldivers too in certain countries where PSN wasn't available. So it's just a double whammy of, we are, like, this game is getting murdered. Like, any future tale this game will have is vanishing right before our eyes. So it was imperative that they said something as soon as possible. Like, actually, I'm kind of surprised they said something as early as Sunday evening. They didn't even wait till Monday to try and put out the fire.
Right. I mean, something had to happen. It was
It
was a crisis for them.
And I do think the fire has been largely put out. Like, if you look at the Helldivers 2 reviews on Steam, like on Monday, you could see that they were like more positive than negative again. But the damage still has been done to Helldivers 2 and to Sony. And specifically Sony has been damaged, not like in the eyes of like PlayStation core gamers, but more critically, I think they've been damaged to this new audience that they've been trying to get, right? Like, first impressions matter a lot, and PC players are notoriously sort of like, I mean, they're not going to jump into your ecosystem unless you give them a really good reason to. And this was not a really good first impression, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think I don't want to like paint a bad picture of console players, but like, when you buy a PlayStation, you are going to play the first party PlayStation games, you know? And like, whatever weird stuff Sony tries to make you do, you're gonna do it because you already bought this console. You're gonna play the best games on that console. But and other, you know, there's a certain amount of like bogus you'll put up with, like paying for multiplayer. That money's not going anywhere to help you. Like, you know, that's the kind of stuff you'll never get away with on PC. It's just that they won't, you know, that audience will not abide by that sort of thing. They just have a lot more options, you know. I have my PC, I can go play, you know, any other game, any game on Steam, any Microsoft game, any whatever, you know.
I could play your game and not pay for it.
Yeah,
I mean, that is an option.
Pirate a game, yeah.
I think Sony, what they thought they could do, in a way, because they're also requiring a PlayStation account for Ghost of Tsushima when it comes out. I think what they thought they could do, and it's not a reality on PC, is maybe potentially require you to play for PlayStation Plus to play their games online, even if you're on PC.
That's
But
crazy. Yeah, I don't.
that's absolutely nuts to do. But at this point, I would not put it past Sony to do it
No, I
or to
think
attempt it.
realistically, I think what Sony is trying to do is extend their walled garden around the PC audience, and it's just not working, right? Like they have to.
The PC audience is notoriously bad about it.
They have to have a different business model for PC. They can't just rope the fence around the PC audience and have them coexist with the PlayStation audience. It's just not going to work that way.
Like PC players, especially Steam users are very, very, very tough to pull off of Steam in any major way. Even if you require a third-party launcher, it's gonna hurt the reception of your game if you have to have a Ubisoft account or an EA account to play the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, many have tried and many have failed.
Yeah, like all those platforms go anywhere. They just are an annoying second layer after you launch a game on Steam.
Right.
I mean, arguably the only one to really do it has been Epic, and even then, like, they're not really...
They're not really
beating
any
Steam
awards
in any way.
Well, they also arguably, I would say, of the major storefronts that I've seen launch, Epic is the worst one.
Yeah.
Like, I hated having to install Origin for EA games back in the day. I hate the Ubisoft launcher. But genuinely, I think Epic's is the most useless one.
And I hate Epic, because every time I want to play an Epic game, I have to log back in. And it's just obnoxious.
Horrible to use on Steam.
Like,
too.
yeah, I have my two-factor that pops through. I have to dig out my phone to log in. And it's like Steam, I just log in. Like, it's always logged in on my computer, at least.
No, like Steam, you can just scan that QR code and log in now. Like, they've done everything to make it as seamless as possible.
Yeah, it's so easy. And as a plus, since Steam's always up, it's always logged in. It never requires me to log back in, because it has that layer of trust that I'm the only one at this computer. And I like that. I like that it trusts me not to let someone else into my Steam account without me around.
And kind of going off that point, well, I was just going to say, kind of extrapolating on that a little bit, like the security perspective, there was like a contingent of people online saying they just simply do not trust Sony because of the infamous PSN hack like a decade ago. Which, granted, security moves very quickly. Like, Sony is obviously not what they were security-wise 13 years ago. But they have a valid point, right? Like, if all this massive data breach happened, that was so severe that Sony's executives literally got on stage at E3 and bowed as an apology. Like that, which is just ludicrous that just never happens.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say it can't happen again, right? Like, and obviously Sony has invested heavily in cybersecurity since the incident, but like I said, the damage is done. First impressions matter. So a significant contingent of the PC player base sees Sony's security as not as, I guess not as desirable as something like Steam's, which I think is a valid point too.
No, and PC players are going, I would say on average, probably more knowledgeable about, or more, they have thought about cybersecurity before. Knowledgeable is not the word I would use, but it is something on their mind.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, PC players are constantly thinking about, like, breaches and everything. And in a way that, like, I feel like being trapped in the walled garden of a console, it hurts console players in the long run. Because they don't know what happens outside their garden. And so, like, oh, what do you mean? They're just having a fit for having an account? That doesn't make any sense. I have an account. But the freedom of not having to make an account for every game you own is so nice.
No, I mean, I absolutely understand, right? Like I said, my first reaction was just like, hey, why are you complaining about this? But as I learned more about the situation, my opinion changed. But you're right in that, like, I mean, I get annoyed when I have to link my accounts to things unnecessarily. So, and so I totally get it, right? Like, it's just another minor annoyance that has no real reason to be there other than for some Sony executive to say, look at our numbers because of this, PC integration we did.
Shareholder value.
Oh, we'll be talking about shareholder value soon. Don't you worry about that.
I do want to say about this, though, I think this crisis, this fire is largely put out. I'm actually really impressed. I don't think I've ever seen a community actually go back and change their reviews to positive the way the Helldivers community
Oh, did
has.
they really? That's crazy.
It seems like, yeah, they're back into the mostly positive. Like, they were so deep in the negative 2 days ago, and they're not anymore.
I know
That's
everyone on
really
my
funny.
friends list had a negative review of it. And then the second they walked back the change, they all changed their review because sometimes the player voices can be heard, especially for a live service game. And it kind of proves that if you're willing to listen to players, your live service will prosper. And if you don't, you're going to go the way of the dinosaur. You're just going to go extinct because no one's going to want to play it.
The reason this change was reversed is because Helldivers 2 is a live service game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
if this had just been like another AAA first-party story-based Sony game, Sony would have already made all their money. They wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But with a game like Helldivers 2, right, like, the initial sales obviously matter a lot, but what matters way more is the longevity of the game, and they were cutting that off completely with making everyone angry.
Right. I am curious how this impacts the future of PlayStation games coming to PC, though. I wonder if this is going to make Sony... I figure they're going to do better when they release games now. They've learned this lesson.
Yes.
But I wonder if it's going to make them more cautious. I wonder if it is like, do we even want to put this on PC if we're going to have to deal with these temperamental babies,
Yeah.
Well, no,
which isn't how I feel, but I could see a Sony executive being like, God, you touch a hot stove, you burn your hand. Do we really want to do it again?
Well, I think they do because money, right? Like,
Yeah.
the money speaks over everything, and they're making money hand over fist with Helldivers 2. So I do think they'll treat this as a cautionary tale. They'll be a bit more careful in the future, but I do think Sony ultimately still wants everyone on PSN. Like, it's just Sony now has to think about how to do that in a way without making everyone extremely angry, which I don't know if that's doable on PC.
They need to know, though, that if they ever have that as a requirement for a single-player game, you're going to have another situation just like this. Even if it's at launch, even if they communicate it well,
Right.
people are going to be furious if they have to log into an account for a single-player game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sony has to figure out something, right? Like, they obviously want some sort of PlayStation affinity with their games on Steam, but maybe this isn't quite the right way to go about it, but I'm sure they'll be thinking of something that hopefully won't make as many people angry.
Well, the thing that made me mad, somebody posted, and this was like the obvious solution. Give me 200 super credits to link my PSN account, and I would have done it right then and there.
Oh, just like an
I
in-game
wouldn't have
reward,
even thought
yeah.
about it.
Yeah. And have it be totally optional. I think
Yeah, exactly.
having it being a requirement was the whole deal. Like, telling someone they have to do something or you're going to take something away is never a good strategy for anything. Business, personal life, or, just period. I can't imagine how they thought that was a reasonable idea. But
No, 100% agree.
yeah,
Like-
if they make it optional and reward you for doing it, I could see that being the way to do it in the future.
I doubt they'll ever reward people, though. It's Sony. Corporate greed.
I don't
Corporate
know.
greed is a problem right now.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to turn that against you, right? Like, corporate greed is the reason they'll want to do it, because they're going to ultimately make way more money with you in PSN than you not in PSN.
Right, and like 200, however many super credit, it doesn't cost them anything. That it doesn't, they're not real money.
But even if, like, I mean, even taking this hypothetical further, if they offered like $5-10 of PSN credit or something like that, I could even see that happening too. I mean,
Yeah.
Getting you into PlayStation Network is way more valuable to them financially than like losing $10 to $20 per person. I think, at least. I mean, obviously I don't know their financials, but
You keep raising that number. The 5 to 10 seemed high to me. The 10 to 20 seems really high.
Yeah. Okay, so $10. Let's call it $10 to get you on PlayStation Network. That you can then spend on a Sony game, which further gets you into the PlayStation Network even more. You know.
Yeah, I could see it being like a $10 off sort of thing.
If they really want people in PlayStation Network, they have to also coexist with Steam completely, seamlessly, and optionally. Like, that is a requirement. You cannot try to pull people off Steam. We've seen that fail over and over again. You need to be additive on Steam, not like trying to carve into Steam.
For sure.
Yeah. You like carving into Steam, you're just gonna lose. You can't win. Steam always wins. The house always wins, and Steam is the house.
I mean, certainly on PC, Steam is the house. So you don't try to mess with people's house.
Yeah.
On PC.
Yeah. That is what it is right now.
And barring any catastrophic failures, which, I mean, are a lot less likely from Steam than companies like Sony and Microsoft. I mean, I don't see that changing in the future.
Yeah.
No, I was seeing a lot of people after this debacle with PlayStation and the stuff with Xbox that we haven't talked about yet. I saw a lot of people saying that 10 years from now, the only two companies left in gaming are going to be Steam and Nintendo, which I would say those two are the two most resilient. Is calling Steam first party, is that even sensible? Like the most.
I don't think they're first party because they don't really make too many games, but I mean, Nintendo is just a beast all on their own. Like, their financials came out, I think today as well. Today's been a very busy day, but I was reading them, like, their Switch is at like something crazy, like 130 million units sold. They've sold over 1 billion units of software on Switch. And the craziest metric to me was that over 80% of all game sales on Switch are first-party games. Insanity. Just
the
madness.
Metric that was insane to me was that Nintendo has made more money in the Nintendo Switch era. I don't even think counting any 3DS games. I think just Nintendo Switch games, they have made more money than they made between 1981 and 2016.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane, but I also believe it.
Yeah. Not adjusted for inflation, to be clear. Not adjusted for inflation. Right,
yeah. That's insane, man. I mean, look at the Switch's numbers. It's a console almost everyone owns. It has this level of ubiquity that like a DS or a Game Boy had.
Yeah, it definitely, like, maybe even more.
Maybe even more. Yeah.
I didn't know a ton of adults that had a DS. And I was on the plane today.
Well, all the kids that had a DS are now adults that have a Switch.
I was playing my Steam Deck. Like, two adults, like, you know. And I saw a lot of kids that had Switches. I saw, they're just everywhere.
But it's just amazing to me. Like, I feel like it should be studied how Nintendo has somehow isolated themselves completely from the larger games industry and have found themselves immensely successful. And it's just not a thing anyone else does. It's crazy. So it's just fascinating to me. But I guess back to the topic at hand here. Do we have anything else we want to say about the Helldivers 2 situation?
Not really.
I want props for walking it back.
Don't do it again.
I have seen rumors, and this is going to be really funny if they actually do it. But someone in the community designed a cape inspired by
oh my god,
the graph of the negative reviews, and it looks like it's actually going to get put in the game.
I think
that's
they are.
So funny.
I think they're working on it.
It's extremely funny.
And what a genius way of kind of turning this horrific moment for that community into a meme. So It sort of further puts out the fire.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's a brilliant PR stunt for them to do. Yeah.
Yeah, Helldivers 2, man. It is the game that keeps on giving. I do want to get back to. Did they put the third faction in already?
No,
I haven't heard that. No, I don't think so.
Okay, they've just been like teasing it endlessly, but yeah, the dynamic like game master nature of that game is so cool to me, and I love that it's still relevant. Like obviously, when a live service game first comes out, it always feels like this thing is the next big thing. But you never really know how much it'll stick around, and Helldivers 2 is certainly still stuck, which is awesome.
Yeah, it has.
All right, so this was going to be the main thing we talked about today. But then earlier today, this morning, news broke that Microsoft was shuttering several of its first-party studios, and among them was Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin, which both have made pretty prolific games, right? So Tango Gameworks' latest game was Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush, not even like...
Which just came out on PlayStation, by the way.
It just came out on PlayStation. It's only like a year old, I think. I think it was an early 2023 game, and it was successful. It made its money back. It was critically acclaimed. It was like a critical darling. And also, it was really good and fun. And there was no reason to shutter this studio. Like, just no sensible reason.
I mean, it's really frustrating because I have done my best over the years to point out the, I guess, contradictions that Xbox keeps spouting. Because Phil Spencer, I'm sorry, he really says one thing and does another. And another example of that is him not even a year ago saying that Hi-Fi Rush was a massive success critically, commercially for us, and we're looking forward to future games by Tango Gameworks. Not even a year later, they're dead, you know?
Yeah, they're gone.
And this further feeds into my, call it a crackpot theory if you want, but I really do believe that very recently at Xbox, something has shifted leadership-wise. I do not feel like Phil Spencer is fully in the reins anymore. Like, I think there are finance-minded executives that are now have more authority on these decisions than they previously did. And I think the multi-platform decision by Microsoft was the first piece of evidence for that. And the second piece of evidence are these studio closures, which kind of go against what Phil Spencer was saying.
I agree in part, but I don't want to defend Phil Spencer too much because he also...
No, I mean, so here's the thing, man. Like, the buck has to stop with someone, right? Like, even if things are happening outside of Phil's control, he is the head of Xbox. So ultimately, it has to be his responsibility.
Even beyond the studio closures, like, Xbox has not seen a lot of success under Phil Spencer. There has not been... I mean, the brand has been rehabilitated some, but what good games... have been made at Xbox under Phil Spencer. Like, in what way is he building an environment
I hear what you're saying.
That produces...
I think, so my take on this, this is a bit of a tangent, but my take on this is that Xbox has put out good games, but they have not put out, like, iconic games in the same way Nintendo and Sony has in the same time period.
They haven't put out a lot of, like, among their great games, I would say, like, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Sea of Thieves, half of Halo Infinite, the multiplayer half, I would say is really good. I really don't, like, since 2014 when Phil Spencer took over, I really don't know what else, they've had a few successes.
Forza's probably, like, if we're looking at things objectively, critically, Forza's probably their biggest success.
But hasn't it always been fine? Like, Forza...
Yeah, I mean, Forza's always been, like, a shining jewel for them.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I guess it's been fine, but a lot of these studios that were fine until they were a part of Xbox, and suddenly, like, Arcane Austin was making
this is man,
absolute
like,
bangers.
I mean, the writing, to me at least, was sort of on the wall with this endless growth mindset, right? Like, somehow, like, the money question has to be answered. And it's being answered now because for the longest time, I think Microsoft, specifically Xbox, had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted with their money. Oh, you want to buy Activision Blizzard for $70 billion? Go right ahead, It's all in the name of growth, all in the name of feeding Game Pass. But now, right, I think that Microsoft is like, okay, where are the results? And Xbox doesn't really have the results that Microsoft expects them to have. And now we're seeing layoffs, we're seeing studio closures, all of it.
Right. I mean, I'm so grateful Toys for Bob went indie like 2 months ago.
And at this point, like, having a successful game doesn't mean anything. Having a good game doesn't mean anything. In this point of the layoffs, being a good studio
by any
won't
fair
spare
metric.
You.
Oh, no. Yeah. Being good doesn't matter at all. Making money matters.
But by
Unfortunately.
any fair metric, Hi-Fi Rush, it made money. It was good. It just didn't make all the money in the world. And that wasn't enough for them.
Which is very, very sad, especially because Tango Gameworks was their one and only Japanese studio. And Phil Spencer had always, not always, but over the past recent years, kept talking about how they want to make more inroads to Japan, how they want Xbox to be more synonymous with Japanese games and Japanese gaming. And that's certainly not a way to do it, is to kill your only Japanese studio.
No,
and whether
and
we like it or not, the Japanese, like, the player base may not be significant financially, but Japanese games matter overall to the overall health of gaming immensely, especially in 2024.
It's also like, obviously the most important thing is these people who don't have jobs anymore. Their livelihood is at stake because of a foolish corporate decision.
Right, because of corporate greed. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But these beloved IPs are now just gone for all intents and purposes. The Evil Within, Hi-Fi Rush, never going to get a sequel. Prey, never going to get a sequel.
Yeah,
Dishonored, done.
Prey hurts. Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about the other one.
No,
'cause
Dishonored's still around because Arcane Leon still exists.
Arcane Leon's making, but yeah. So we talked about Tango, right? But the other studio that closed was Arcane Austin, who most notably
they had one
made
stinker.
They made Prey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they made
Prey is one of the
And they didn't even want to make Prey. Or they didn't even want to make Redfall.
Redfall,
Is that
yeah.
true?
They wanted to make another immersive sim, and then Microsoft's like, we want a live service game.
Yeah. I mean, Prey is among the greatest games ever made, I would argue. Maybe not top 10, but like, it's in the conversation. That game is incredible.
Yeah.
It's just it's a shame, man. It's because like one bad game is enough to sink you now, right? Like Redfall, like obviously came out, no one cared about it, and it was enough to kill them.
But the whole idea of being with Microsoft, like,
is to have a cushion
dream.
against these things, right?
Yeah. And it seems worse than it was before now.
And that's why, like, you see all these studios tweeting out saying, like, pointing to this. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there were studios that pointed to this today, and they were like, "This is why we will never be acquired by a publisher." Because
I mean,
because
what's the point of Game Pass? Like, in my mind, the point of Game Pass, the beauty of that business model, is that you can have a stinker, you can have a game fail, and be okay. And that clearly just isn't the case. You can't even have a game succeed and be okay.
That's not the case because the financials of Game Pass do not make sense. And I've been beating this drum for over half a decade now. And we're finally seeing the consequences of it.
I'm about to cancel my Game Pass subscription after this news today. This is the first thing that's ever had me like, I don't actually think I want these people having one hand in my pocket every month. I think I'm going to buy the games I like and not do this anymore.
What would ruin this for everyone even more is if Bethesda gets shuttered.
No, I mean, what's the point, right? Like, you spend $6 billion on Bethesda and all of its kind of subsidiaries, and one by one you shoot them in the head over the course of the decade. I mean, and obviously, I mean, right, maybe that's a little bit of an extreme reaction. But like, is it though? I mean, it's kind of valid
to say
too.
It, but like, is id safe right now? Like, I'm a big Doom fan. But
no, here's the thing. I mean, I think this sends a very clear message out that when you release your game, it better light the world on fire, because if not, you're on notice.
Yeah, you're doomed.
Because I hate to say it, but like, we're gonna shut down the people that made Prey to defend Starfield? Like, what?
I saw some very prescient tweets by people in the industry today, and a common sentiment among them was that Microsoft, unlike Sony and Nintendo, are way too focused on short-term goals. If you really want, I guess, this engine of multiple studios putting out high-quality hits, you have to invest in them, not just money, but time. You have to let these people, these teams, grow together and make games together, and some of them might fail, but that's okay because they'll learn from them and get better, right? Like, you can't just, if someone puts out a bad game, throw them away, buy the next guy, and expect them to put out a hit, right? What Sony Nintendo did differently is that, yes, they've made acquisitions as well, but for the most part, a lot of their homegrown first-party games, they were grown organically over decades, and that is not something you can imitate just by buying and selling.
I mean, look, there's one studio at Microsoft that, as far as I can tell, they did this with, and it's Rare. And, like, Rare did...
Yeah, Rare's a great example.
They didn't light the world on fire, and even Sea of Thieves, at launch, needed work. And they did. They put in the work, and it's a better game than it's ever been, and it has more players than it's ever had.
Imagine if Sea of Thieves launched in, let's say, 2023, right? Like, it would probably be canned. It would probably be canned by 2025 in the current environment. But they gave Sea of Thieves time to grow. They gave Rare, a renowned developer, the time they needed to develop this new skill set, and look at the results. Like, Sea of Thieves is one of their most popular games. It's one of the most popular games on PlayStation right now, and it's just a highly successful live service game in a sea of dead live service games.
Yeah, among the best multiplayer games I have ever played, easily.
But it's just wild to me that Microsoft can't look at their own successes and learn from them that way. It just sucks, man. Like, we're losing some serious talent with these decisions, and it also puts out the statement that no one is really safe. Like, if Helldivers 2, or sorry, not Helldivers 2, Hellblade 2. Sorry, I was getting that mixed up. Right?
Oh yeah, no, I would
Hellblade
be sweating.
2. Hellblade 2 has taken the better part of a decade in development, extremely high budget, like high fidelity game. If it doesn't come out and sell a bajillion copies, what happens to Ninja Theory?
No, dude, Ninja Theory's already out of business in my mind. They're done. This is their last game because Hellblade's not that guy. Hellblade does not. It's a niche game. It doesn't do those numbers.
Hellblade 1 is a niche game. Microsoft, it seems to me, is trying to position Hellblade 2 to be a marquee AAA. I think they're trying to position Hellblade 2 to be something it's not, quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree that they're trying to do that. I don't know a single person that sees it that way. I don't know anybody who's not on this podcast that talks about Hellblade at all. I'm excited for it, but
yeah, and it's certainly going to be a good game, but
yeah,
I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think
like
it's gonna
financially,
be a really good
I don't know if it'll do what Microsoft is expecting, and that would be a crying shame if they kill Ninja Theory.
Yeah,
one of the most unique developers we have. Yeah,
but yeah, I don't think it's gonna. It's not gonna make $1 billion. It's not. That's just an unreasonable expectation from a game like that.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, it's scary. It must be kind of scary if you're under the Microsoft umbrella right now, because not only do you have to deal with kind of the mismanaged state of things, but now you have to deal with this threat of extinction from the entity you thought was giving you a safety net.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I 100% would be sharpening up. I don't care which studio at Xbox I work at right now. I'm sharpening up my resume right now. It's just not, I don't know. I mean, nowhere is safe in games right now. Not really.
Right.
But Xbox feels particularly unsafe right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we don't want to let Sony off the hook either. They closed a couple studios recently as well.
No, I mean, like I said, I can see a world where the only major platforms left are Steam and Nintendo. I can see that world happening. It's happened before. Nintendo has survived an apocalypse in the gaming space before.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I can't see Sony dying out completely. I do think there will obviously be a PlayStation 6, but beyond that, I could see maybe a PlayStation app on your PC. But
no, I think we get another console gen from both. There's another Xbox and another PlayStation coming. I have no doubt in my mind about that right now. But
right,
you got to keep in mind, like, they've only been in the biz for 30 years each, right? Like, they got in the 90s, and that's just not that long. PlayStation, to me, it's been around my whole life. It feels like it can't go anywhere. Same with Xbox, but that's not. It's happened before. The market has crashed.
Right. And to speak on your point a little bit, I think what's interesting is that PlayStation and Microsoft are facing a similar set of problems due to the nature of the businesses that they set up for themselves. And Nintendo is not facing that problem, right? Nintendo is growing at a natural pace, and that's okay for the shareholders of that company. But conversely, with Sony and Microsoft, right, they're seeing this live service money, their expectations are sky high, and if those lofty financial goals are not met, there are serious consequences for the people working at those companies.
It's a similar but opposite problem to what crashed the market last time. The last time the market crashed, it was because they were making too many games. The quality wasn't high enough. And now it's not enough games and the quality's too high. There's too much money going into every individual game that, like, the success needed to pay it off is just ridiculous. It's unsustainable. And I don't know. I'm not sitting here predicting that Xbox and PlayStation are going to go away. I'm just saying I'm not going to be that surprised if it happens 10 years down the line. If it happened in the next, if it happened soon, I would be shocked.
No, I mean, we're in the midst of a AAA crash right now, and what the industry looks like afterward is anyone's guess. It just sucks that all these people are being affected by it. And also, like, I don't know. I keep going back to Phil Spencer, but I also saw on Twitter today that somehow someone had scraped the fact that he had over 900 hours of, like, game time or something this year. I don't know if that's true, but if that is true, it's like, man, dude, come on. you've got bigger fish to fry.
I don't agree. I actually think I'll defend Phil Spencer's 900 this year?
Yeah, it doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. Maybe it was last year. I was
going to say 900 in a year.
I think it was last year.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, no. I will defend him there because it is his job to know games, and I think he needs to play a lot of games to do that. But we're not seeing the results. So, like, I'm not going to defend him too much, but I'd rather have a suit that plays 900 hours of games a year than a suit that doesn't know how to turn on an Xbox running the company, you know?
That's fair enough, yeah. It's just, I don't know. I want to see
900 hours that much to play in a year? Like,
I mean, that's around how much at least according to PlayStation, is how much I averaged at least a couple of years ago. I think that number's gone down for me recently, but
yeah, and you work a full-time job.
I was just implying that, as the head of Xbox, I feel like he should be busier, but I don't know. Maybe that was a little out of term.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's probably working more than 40 hours a week, or should be. He certainly should be for the amount of money he makes. He should be working every waking moment of his life to get, God, what? He gets paid $10 million a year?
Millions, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, more than he's worth, for sure. And probably enough to have kept these studios open. But
yeah, that's the other thing, too, that you saw Nintendo do that Sony and Microsoft will never do, is that executive pay cuts in the interest of keeping everyone afloat.
Yeah, no, I mean, in my mind, when a team is failing, you look at the leadership first, and that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's just the question of, like, how many times can we make excuses for Phil Spencer just because he wears, like, a Halo t-shirt, like, at E3 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, Don Matrick did insane rapid damage to the Xbox brand, but Phil Spencer, yes, he rehabilitated it somewhat, but, I mean, he's doing long-term slow damage to the brand now, I feel like.
Yeah. No, and he's not just doing damage to Xbox, he's buying up other companies and destroying them.
Right.
Like, Bethesda was on fire. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of first-party Bethesda, like the Elder Scrolls. I liked Skyrim. I liked Oblivion. I don't like Fallout that much. I was never going to be in love with Starfield, I don't think. But, like, Bethesda had Doom, it had Prey, it had a lot of stuff going for it, and now I just really don't have a ton of optimism for it anymore.
Yeah, I really don't feel like Bethesda's the magic. They don't have magic anymore. It's gone.
I don't know
whether it was
I don't know, man. Like, there is a Bethesda magic that I yearn for, and I don't know, right? Like, I just simply don't know. Is it because I was a kid when I first played Skyrim, or did Skyrim really have that magic? I can't ever know for sure. But, like, I do yearn for that Bethesda magic again, whether it was imagined or real.
I think it was real. There's enough people. I mean, people still play Skyrim today and love it. I think it was real. I just don't think it's in Starfield.
And I don't think it's in Fallout 4 either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Some people might disagree with that.
To a lesser extent. I know people that Fallout 4 is very special to them. I think
I do as well. Skyrim. I do as well, yeah. But so I did want to reiterate, right? So Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin were not the only two studios that closed, right? And here we have this email from Matt Booty, who is high up on Xbox. I'm sure you all heard his name if you follow Xbox in any capacity. But this is an internal email that leaked, as these do, I guess, where he discusses the changes that were being made. And I'm not going to read the whole thing verbatim. You can look it up if you're interested, but I'm going to read some of the highlights, right? So they talk about the studio closures, right? So Arcane Austin, the studio will close with some members of the team joining other studios on work on projects across Bethesda. And then he talks about how they have a history of making really good games. Redfall's previous update will be its last as we end all development on the game. And this is actually kind of insane because Redfall was being worked on. Like, internet sleuths have pieced this together on Twitter. But
it was worked on today.
It was worked on today. Like, the last update was pushed today. So, and they were literally days away from releasing an offline update that would make Redfall available to play offline, thus ensuring the preservation of that game, but now that's just not happening. So Redfall is actually just going to be dead. So because that update that they were basically done with is not going to be released.
That sucks. I have no love for Redfall, but game preservation is so important.
Right, because this is something that, like, whether they wanted to or not, this is a team. This is something that a team of people poured thousands of hours of effort into, and for it to just die and have no evidence of it ever existing is pretty sad.
That update, the work on that update has to leak. That's like a moral imperative.
Yeah, so that really sucks. If this really shakes out that way, that, you know, like they were right on the cusp, right? They were on the finish line, at least of ensuring that this game could last. Or stand on its own, like offline. But as it stands now, that update will not be released. All development on Redfall has ceased immediately. So that was their update on Arcane Austin, right? So Alpha Dog Studios. This is another studio that is being shut down. We appreciate the team's creativity in bringing Doom to new players. Mighty Doom will be sunset on August 7th. Is that a mobile game, Connor?
I have no idea what that is. I heard it for the first time today.
The team at Roundhouse Games will be joining ZeniMax Online Studios, so they're not closing, they're just sort of being absorbed by ZeniMax, which is fine. I do want to read this part, because I think it's important for how these people are thinking. With this consolidation of our Bethesda studio teams, so that we can invest more deeply in our portfolio of games and UIP, a small number of roles across select Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will also be eliminated, blah, 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 blah. These changes are not a reflection of the creativity and skill of the talented individuals at these teams or the risks they took to try new things. I acknowledge that these changes are also disruptive to the very support teams across ZeniMax and Bethesda that bring our games to the market. We're making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. I don't want a knee-jerk reaction, but do you think that a large part of this is then just divesting more resources to Fallout after the success of the show?
First thing I thought when I read it.
Yeah.
100%.
That's
and the other thing I thought was, what a mistake. What a mistake to get rid of Arcane Austin, who probably could have made a better Fallout game than Bethesda.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if not a better Fallout game, certainly a game with more flavor than Fallout, in my opinion.
Or at least like a deeply fascinating game in that universe. I mean,
yeah, they could have taken it in interesting directions for sure.
I mean, look at Prey, and imagine just Prey taking place in a vault. Like, there's a lot you could do with that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not the weird alien, like, magic power stuff. But yeah, like, a system-driven game taking place in a vault instead of a space station could be really cool.
It could be. But yeah, my take reading this email from Matt Booty is that they are shuttering studios that kind of had experimental / low financially impactful games and doubling down on their established IPs, which I guess it makes sense from a risk aversion perspective, but it just sucks from like a gamer perspective because yes, we love Fallout, we love Skyrim, we love Elder Scrolls, we love the established franchises, but we want new things too, right? Like, we can't just keep churning out the same old things forever and ever and ever and ever. Like, we need room to grow. We need room to create new IP. And the fact that
I disagree that this made sense financially, I think, because the beauty of Game Pass to me, and I know your argument is that Game Pass was never going to work, and maybe that's fair, but I don't think that's what Xbox believes right now. But the beauty of Game Pass to me was that, like, yeah, I got these big games, but I would have bought those big games. The beauty of Game Pass was that I got Hi-Fi Rush, was that I got stuff like Prey. Like, I played Prey because it was on Game Pass. I wouldn't have bought that game. I got these like weirder, more experimental games that I might have missed on Steam, but they were more in my face because I subscribed to Game Pass. And that's another reason I might just cancel my subscription now, because it looks like that's not what I'm going to get anymore. I'll just spend my $60.
that makes sense to you, the customer, but it did not make sense to Microsoft or to Xbox, the company. And because it did not make sense to them, we are now seeing the consequences of that. Because they did not make the money that they needed to make through Game Pass subscriptions or through wholesale sales of the game or what have you, we're now seeing the consequences of that, right? So maybe in a different universe, the Game Pass model could have worked in their ideal way they wanted it to work, where they have a bunch of subscriptions, these subscriptions fund games, act as a cushion for games, allow developers to try things, but that isn't working. So it's just sad that this is the consequence. We see talented devs pay the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 back-to-back kind of negative topics, but worth discussing because I don't know. It's worth kind of raising alarm bells when things aren't going right in the games industry, because we have seen, as with the Helldivers example, that can have some kind of impact. All right. Do we want to move on to what we're playing?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. I'll kick us off here. So I've been playing a few things, but I think this week I'll just talk about Dave the Diver again.
Oh, yeah? Are you deeper into it?
I've finished it. So I've rolled credits on it, and it's a fun little game, man. But the thing I will argue is that the mini games, the constant barrage of new mechanics, I both enjoy it and dislike it, right? I dislike it because a lot of times you're introduced to like a new mechanic, which is just a little mini game or something that's explored once and then never again. It's just flavor for the sake of flavor, right? But when they introduce a new system, like a new sort of strategic system in the game, like, oh, now you have a farm to manage, or, oh, now you have a digital fish to take care of, like, those things are cool because they're actual systems that impact the way I play. But the little mini games that just sort of pop up are like one and done thing. I was sort of heavily over it by the end, and they were just sort of annoying to me. And I thought, like, obviously the story is just kind of goofy and whatever, but I think the magic of Dave the Diver is actually in just after the story, when you can actually just engage with the core mechanics of the game, which are the fish catching and the sushi restaurant management. Like, that loop is really, really addicting to me because I have like
you continued to play it.
Yeah. I think I might platinum it, honestly. I'm playing it so much. And everyone will get something different from this game. Obviously, it has a lot of charm, and that might be the main appeal for a lot of people. But for the main appeal to me are those two systems, and how they like feed each other, the fish catching and the sushi management. Because by the end of the game, you actually open up a branch restaurant as well, and you're completely hands off there, right? All you do is hire the staff, you train them, and you send them ingredients, and they sort of manage themselves. So, kind of like managing kind of offhand that second sushi restaurant was a lot of fun for me too. Obviously, optimizing my staff so they can basically do everything at this point, right? Like, because at the sushi restaurant as Dave, for the longest time, you have to sort of run around and do things, clean up dishes, serve dishes, pour drinks, whatever. But my staff now is so elite that I basically just walk around and just watch things like an actual manager. Because they're so fast at everything. They're so fast at cleaning dishes, so fast at serving dishes. The kitchen staff is so fast at making dishes. It's just boom, 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 boom. I just watch the money roll in and the dopamine hits keep coming. So, those systems are where Dave the Diver really shines. And plus, I have the fish farm set up to where I have a lot of highly priced, like highly valued fish. I have them in my fish farm, so they just keep reproducing and producing more of those high value fish, and those go directly to my restaurants, so they're used, which generate me more money, which I can then in turn use to train the staff better, to make our restaurants even better. It's just this endless sort of loop. And obviously there's an end to it at some point. You know, you can only level your dishes so high, you can only train your staff up so high, but for the moment, I'm really sort of enjoying that grind. To a surprising extent, I've played this game way more than I thought I would, and I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would. I would just like, and I do think there's going to be a sequel, especially judging by like the tease at the end of the game, which is hilarious, by the way, that there even was a tease. But
it also was like a huge hit. So
right, yeah, it was a huge hit too. But like, I would definitely like them to put less of the little mini games in the sequel, because for me, they were just kind of distracting and more annoying than anything, but I don't know if people will have that same opinion as me. I think a lot of people would just find it charming, but I just sort of found it annoying.
No, it drove me away from the game. I would argue it's why I didn't finish it, because it got to the point where I almost couldn't discern the interesting systems of the game from the weird mini game I don't really need to pay attention to. So like, I was like, do I actually need to learn to do this well, or am I never going to be asked to do this again?
Right. No, I totally get that. And you only sort of see that after wading through all of it. And at the end of it, you can see like, okay, these are the things that really actually mattered. And another thing that really I derived a lot of enjoyment from was automating everything. Like I said, right, I don't really do anything at my restaurant anymore because my staff is so highly trained. I don't do anything at the farm anymore because I have someone on staff that does all my farm chores for me. I don't
get this man a copy of Factorio.
Right, yeah, I'd probably go crazy. I'd probably go crazy playing that game. But yeah, automating everything was just really fun to me. And just having like my resources set up so they just feed each other, right? Like having the money come in that I pour into the restaurants, having the fish come in that also feed the restaurants. It's just it's an enjoyable feedback loop to me. So I do see myself getting the platinum trophy in this game, which is something I never would have thought I would do going into this game. So yeah, another endorsement 2 weeks in a row for Dave the Diver.
I am also doing a repeat. I've been playing Monster Hunter and Sea of Thieves. I'm going to talk about Sea of Thieves because I talked mostly Monster Hunter last week, I think. I swear I'm going to have a different game next week because Animal Well is coming out. But Sea of Thieves just got its Season 12 update, and it came to PlayStation. I knew a bunch of people that had told me they were going to hop on the seas because of this update. Not a single one of them did, but one other person who I hadn't talked to did, so I was playing with them a little bit. Having fun. The new update is sick. It adds new weapons for the first time since the game came out. They added throwing knives and a double barrel pistol. I don't use either of them, but I'm glad they're in the game. They're cool to have. They moved the Chest of Fortune back to the Fort of Fortune, which people who don't play Sea of Thieves aren't going to really know what that means, but the Chest of Fortune is like the most valuable chest on the server. And you get it from a world event, and you used to get it from beating a fleet of ships in naval combat, skeleton ships, so NPCs. And now it's back at a fort that you do with sword and gun combat. I think it makes more sense to have it there. It's kind of the sandbox is a little deeper on ground than it is at sea. So, because all the islands are also surrounded by the sea. So you get a little bit of everything when it's at the fort if you're stealing from people and stuff. Whereas when it was at sea, it was kind of just naval combat. So I think that was a good call. Although I think they're just going to move that around in the future. They've also made it so that you can walk on harpoon lines, which seems like a pretty small addition, but it's kind of awesome. It makes it a lot easier to like quickly get to islands and get back to your ship. And they added a bunch of zip lines to like kind of make it quicker to move around the world. It was just a huge kind of quality of life's not the word, but like a sandbox update. They just added a few more systems to the sandbox, and it's really fun. Plus, all the new PlayStation players are around, and that's fun. My new goal in game is I typically sail alone on a sloop, which is the smallest boat. So I solo sloop, and there's the next ship up is a brig, which is a brigantine that's going to have 3 people on it. And my goal is to solo sink a competent brigantine. I haven't been able to do that yet. I've sunk plenty of brigantines, but like something like 70-80% of the people that play this game are going to sink the second you start shooting at them. They're just going to run away and not want to do naval combat.
You're a warrior seeking a worthy opponent.
No, I found them. I just keep losing. I've sunk a lot of brigantines, but I keep finding every time I run into a competent one, it's like over. Because it's very hard. Like, in a 1v1, your skill level matters. But in a 1v3, it's kind of a binary. Like, if all 3 of them are bad at the game, I'm gonna win. But if any 2 of them are competent, then I'm like, that's gonna be better than me. It's very hard to win against a crew that knows what they're doing at all. Like, even the incompetent crew that I sunk the other day, the only reason I beat them is because they used the wrong kind of ammo. They were firing firebombs at me. If they'd just used normal cannonballs, I would have lost that fight. Because they were hitting me. It's just they were using an ammo that isn't very good against sloops. So, I gotta up my game. I'm gonna practice some. Try to get that. I love that game. I'm very sweaty at it.
I will say, Connor, eventually I'll play this game with you. I just wasn't feeling it this past weekend, but it'll happen one day, I promise.
Yeah, let me know. I'm probably going to end up buying the game on Steam since I'm going to probably cancel my Game Pass subscription.
Well, I'm sure there'll be Steam sales where you could get it for not full price.
Yeah, it's $20 right now, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it goes on sale all the time.
All right. Mike, what are you playing?
I have been playing Songs of Six.
Oh, what is this?
It builds itself as an epic city-state simulator. So it's a city builder, but the main point is you are a city-state, so you interact on a world map with other randomly generated city-states.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a really fun game, really complex, also developed by one guy. So
really?
Yeah, one guy developed something that... It reminds me of Dwarf Fortress, except with the added bonus of potential racism. Because...
Dwarf Fortress has racism.
Yeah, but if this is an actual mechanic, there are groups of species that don't get along with other ones, and they will start fighting each other.
This like reminds me of the Spore Tribal stage, kind of. The
All
way you're describing it.
All populations in the game have specific bonuses to certain things. Like the pig people aren't great at research, but they're good at farming. And the humans are great at research, good at farming, but they're prone to violence and insanity. So they go insane very easily.
This game sounds good.
It is. It's very
what was it?
Very good. Songs of Six with a Y.
Songs of Six. Okay.
Yeah, I'm reading about this game now, and it seems very much up my alley. I mean, even the premise alone, right? Songs of Six is a fantasy city builder where you start off as an insignificant colony and build, scheme, and fight your way towards a metropolis and empire. Sign me up for that.
Yeah, it's very
That's
interesting.
a good pitch. Yeah.
There's Zeph Zinch did a video on it. If you want to watch actual gameplay, that's what grabbed me was his video on it. But I think I have maybe like 20 hours in it now.
Oh dang! Yeah, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah. Hold on, let me double check.
Well, I mean, for games like this, maybe not.
Yeah.
No, I have 6 hours, almost 7 hours in it right now, and I've not even touched like the world map yet.
Right,
it is complex. It is hard to work with, though.
It said you're a city state, right? So
yeah.
I guess that implies to me that you're surrounded by bigger fish, and you have to sort of learn how to survive and become a bigger fish yourself.
Yeah,
that's a cool angle for a strategy game.
And you can even trade with the bigger fish, or capitulate to the bigger fish and make them and make them not pay attention to you.
which I'm sure like are both like valid strategies. Like go unnoticed or like be noticed, but have them in your pocket in the right way.
Yeah. Plus, you can buy mercenary companies if you decide to be a wealthy trading nation and just gradually stomp through.
How similar is this to Crusader Kings? Because I'm kind of getting those vibes just
very
talking about it.
unsimilar.
Okay.
Like it's more focused on the city builder aspect than it is the world map aspect.
Okay.
Yeah. So you spend a lot of time in the city builder map for most of your game, building your city, expanding your city, housing your population, fulfilling their needs, making sure they don't rebel. It's wild how complex it gets too.
That's cool. And yet another solo developed game.
Yeah.
Seems to be all the rage these days.
They're doing well. They're doing real well today. Solo games are that's the second one this year that I've heard, other than Manor Lords, which I just got on Game Pass.
Balatro.
Oh my god, yeah.
I forgot about Balatro.
A lot of bangers.
A lot of bangers came out this year. That was just one dude.
I've heard Manor Lords is really good. I haven't checked it out yet.
I started playing it because I saw that it was on Game Pass, so I picked it up. It's super early access right now is what I've got out of it.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. I don't do it. I'm pretty anti-early access. I saw the Hades early access, Hades 2.
Speaking of that, Shadows of Doubt comes out this year, so if you've been waiting, now's the time.
Game of the year already decided.
Yeah, you've sung its praises on this show before.
It is so good.
Yeah, I'm excited to play that when it comes out. I've like been on the cusp of buying it, but now that I know it's coming this year, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah,
sure.
It's probably end of this year.
But just commenting on Hades 2 for a sec, I'm with you, Connor. Like I don't want to play it until it's like out. But I was a little tempted, especially when I was reading about it.
Yeah,
it already has more content than Hades 1, which is just insane to me.
The only reason I didn't pick it up is because I know I'll get my fill of it, and I'll never see the ending,
right?
And that'll bother me.
Yeah, so I'm content to wait, but like, man, it looks mighty good right now, even in early access.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it for sure. I will probably watch, like, if Northern Lion plays it, I'll watch that. I might, like, watch some reviews and stuff of the early access, because I'm curious how it's different. I'm curious if it's the same sort of roguelike balance that Hades had, where it's, like, definitely on the easier side. I'm curious if they went a little more hardcore since it's a sequel. I don't know. Or if they...
I know
I don't know.
very little about this game, so I'm excited to find out in a year or so.
Yeah, it's something like, I can't imagine me learning something that would cause me not to buy it when it comes out.
Right, yeah. All right, you guys got anything else to talk about?
Not really. Songs of Six has kind of taken up all my time recently.
So I do want to comment, I have been playing Stellar Blade, like I mentioned last week, but I think I'm going to hold off one more week, because I really want to try and finish the game before I talk about it, but I am very much enjoying it, and it's definitely scratching an itch that has not been scratched in a while, so look forward to that.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm still playing Monster Hunter World. I had it in my head I was going to play World and Rise, and the DLC for both before Wilds comes out, but I'm getting to the point that I'm not sure that
Don't
I'll
get
be
burned
able
out.
to have Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do it, because I genuinely, I've played 50 hours on this save file in World, and I do not see the ending, and I know that post credits on Iceborne, there's going to be an end game that is like meant for you to put a lot of time into it. And so I don't think I'm going to play Rise before Wilds comes out next year. I think
that's totally
or if
fair.
I do, I'm going to take a mini month break in between them or something, because there's just so much. I mean, I'm still having a really good time with it. I'm still running into new monsters. I'm still I've started playing online a little bit. I play with the hunting horn now, so I'm like giving buffs to people and stuff while also beating the snot out of these monsters. It's really fun, but there's a lot of meat on this game.
Right. And I guess just to sort of round things off, I don't want to really talk about it yet, but I have also dipped my toe into Fallout 4. Because I guess I just got caught up in the Fallout fever with the show coming out. I got the PS5 like next gen update version. I'm enjoying it, but like we mentioned earlier in the show, man, I am really just yearning for that Bethesda magic to grab me again, and it hasn't yet. So I will keep playing it a little bit. I really want to play it, and just I feel like there's something there that I just need to let grab hold of me, and it's just not doing it yet. But I think Fallout 4 has the potential to do it. It does have, like you said, some of that Bethesda magic still in it. And when you look online, you do see people that swear up and down by this game. Like, I was on this Reddit thread, and someone said they had 20,000 hours in Fallout 4.
No
Like,
way that's
what?
vanilla. No doubt in my mind.
Oh yeah,
they
for sure
modded.
modded. But they said
Can
it's
you
their
do
most.
mods on
their-
PS5?
You can, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, I knew you could on Xbox. Yeah,
But they said it was their most played game of all time, and I was seeing like nothing that extreme, but I saw posts on like that Reddit thread like, yeah, I played Fallout 4 for 500 hours, 800 hours. I was like, jeez, how?
20,000 hours in a single player game is like mental illness, brother. That's crazy. Like,
I mean, I'm sure people have done it for
20,000
Skyrim though. You know
20,000 hours in any game is like psychotic.
that. Yeah,
That's
20,000
so many
hours is that like a full year? I don't know. That's a long time.
10,000 hours they say makes you a master of something. What are you at 20? Like,
Transcendent.
yeah, I'm doing some math on how long that is.
It's a long time.
But
20,000 hours. How do you
I don't
get
know, man,
that
like-
much out of Fallout?
yeah, and this is coming from the Fallout
That's
guy.
over
right?
2 years.
That's I didn't hear
I don't
that.
think that's
crazy.
real. I don't think that's real.
Yeah,
Can't be real.
there must be some kind of like number inflation there, because if that's real, that's just wild. But-
I know of a guy that has 13,000 hours in Sea of Thieves. I know that they exist, but he's a streamer who does it professionally.
Okay,
so
yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah,
But my point that I was getting at is that I want to believe that there's still Bethesda magic in this game. Because like I just go back to when I first played Skyrim in high school, and it was one of the most, like, that first night I played it was one of the most magical nights of gaming that I've ever had. Where I was just like literally up
you're
until
not going to recapture that on an old game because like the first night, Skyrim was one of the most hyped games ever. Like
That's
the
true.
11, 11,
Yeah, that's
11,
true. And I don't like, it won't get anywhere close to those heights, but I mean, I remember even playing Oblivion. Oblivion had that Bethesda magic to me. So
Yes,
I just
oh my God, I love Oblivion.
I
Oblivion's my favorite
I
Bethesda
yearn
game.
for that.
Oblivion's so much fun.
Oblivion's great, but I do yearn for that Bethesda magic because, like, when it hits, there's no other feeling quite like it. So I'm experimenting with Fallout 4. I'm gonna try and see if I can recapture even a sliver of that feeling. So I guess I'll get back to you guys with my results. All right, I think that'll do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter and Instagram. Please like, rate, and review us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcast services you use. Click the link in the description to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yep. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.